Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, the 30th of March, 2023. Um, we had another tragic school shooting in Nashville, Tennessee, 3 days ago on Monday. And it's been all over the news. Apparently, a disgruntled female who I guess wanted to be a boy or something. I don't know. They called her transgender female. Um, she was a former student at the school. She was 28 years old, and the video is quite disturbing. It shows her shooting her way into the school, and she apparently killed three students and three teachers or faculty members. I think one was the vice principal, the headmistress, or whatever they call her, and the other one was a teacher, and the other one was a janitor, and then it was three kids who were 9 years old. Um, some people say this has to do with transgender rights. Some people say, "Oh, we need to ban guns." I, I don't know. I mean, I'm live and let live. If you're a boy and you think you want to be a girl, then okay, fine, so be it. You're a girl, you want to be a boy, okay, more power to you. Knock yourself out. But if you're mentally deranged enough to where you think you have to take revenge out on 9-year-old school children who don't even really understand very much the concept of gender, sex, or anything else, um, yeah, you definitely got a screw loose. I've heard people say that they need to ban the AR-15 rifle, but this person apparently used a Kel-Tec, I think they call it a sub 2000. It's basically an overgrown 9mm pistol. It uses a 9mm round. It's just a pistol with a long barrel. You could tell in the picture that they had by looking at the small magazine that appeared to be a 9mm magazine, standard size that you'd find in a Glock 19 or something like that. And there was no rifle. It wasn't even a rifle round that was used. She did have a rifle, but really that's kind of moot. We're at the point where we can't ban our way out of this. You're going to get politicians, people are going to say, "Oh, we want somebody to do something." Well, we use armed security guards to protect banks, jewelry stores, sometimes shopping centers, and especially politicians. Every politician, even the ones who hate guns, are protected by armed security people. If we're going to use all these resources to protect other things, and children are valuable, why do we leave our school? Why do we leave our schools vulnerable? Um, there's really only two solutions you're going to have that are going to make schools safer. None of them involve any new gun control laws because that's just not going to work. First of all, you have to have active and passive security measures to prevent access to the building by people with bad intent. That can involve armed security guards, cameras, metal detectors, limited access points, things like that. The second thing that you have to have in place is armed and trained people inside of the building in case an assailant breaches the perimeter. So you got to keep the bad guy out of the building, but if he gets in there, you got to have somebody, probably more than one person, who can effectively address and neutralize the threat. Um, in all these mass shootings, they always happen in gun-free zones. So a lot of these people are crazy, including this lady who, and I use that term loosely, who shot up this school. They pick easier targets. These things happen in gun-free zones, shopping centers, movie theaters, um, schools, universities, colleges, even, believe it or not, military installations, which are very strictly no-gun zones. You can't, even if you have a carry permit, you can't carry on a military base. Remember Fort Hood? Remember Fort Dix? Yeah, because the weapons are all locked up in the armory. People can't, it's very difficult to carry a weapon on base. Even if you're a sworn police officer, you pretty much still need permission from the provost marshal to carry on an installation, even if you're in uniform. But nevertheless, we are at this situation where we want somebody to do something, or everybody wants to blame something. There are myriad things involved in this. But we got to learn to think outside the box. We can't ban our way out of this. There are 90 million to 100 million citizens in this country who own more than 400 million various firearms. And semi-automatic rifles, or the so-called assault weapons, which that's a made-up term, but the weapons that look like military weapons, such as an AR-15 or an AK-47, something along those lines, there are about 20 million of them. So even a relatively small percentage are used in killings. The most common firearm used in murders is handguns. And almost 2/3 of the handgun deaths in this country are most likely suicides, which is sad, but it's not the same as a murder. Neither is a justifiable homicide or when a police officer shoots a criminal. But nevertheless, it's easy to go down rabbit holes with these different theories. But, you've got to understand if schools are easy targets for bad guys, because in most places in the country, even if you have a concealed carry permit, you cannot be armed on school property. It's a felony. In some places you can, like Utah, I believe lets people who have a concealed carry permit be armed on school property if the school district is okay with it. The state law allows for it. There's another state, I don't know it. I want to say it's Tennessee or Kentucky, but I'm not sure, where there has been a county sheriff who only has a handful of deputies and can't station them at the school. He has deputized some private citizens, including teachers, and put them through an abbreviated academy. And he's made them reserve deputy sheriffs so they can be armed on school property and legally allowed to do so. And they can use lethal force to protect the students. I no longer have any children in school. My son is grown, and I have 2 stepdaughters who are adults. So it's not so much an issue, but I think we all need to care about our children because, well, to quote Kamala Harris, the children are the future. Anyway, this whole thing, I wanted to wait a little bit before I commented on it. It's shocking. And there's a general conception out there where people say, "Oh, well, your guns are mean more to you than our children," which is that's a false dichotomy. That's just a narrative being pushed by the anti-liberty people who despise firearms. But even if you don't like firearms and you don't want anything to do with firearms, that's fine. But just think about it. How are you going to protect children? Are you going to put a sign outside the school that says no guns allowed? And then a bad guy, if there's a police officer in the school, all he does is wait till that deputy or officer gets in his patrol car and goes to lunch or goes somewhere else, or even watch to see what side of the building he's in. And then you know that you're not going to encounter any resistance. If there were armed and trained people strategically located in that school, that would serve as a very good deterrent. As I mentioned Utah before, they don't have a lot of school shootings there. Now, is that anecdotal? Is that coincidental? I don't know. But you've got to understand a lot of these demented killers are sick in the head, but they're not stupid. They're not going to go after a gun range or a police station or somewhere else where they know people are going to be armed. They're going to pick easier targets. They're going to pick soft targets. We can't ban our way out of this. We have over 20,000 gun laws already. So that dog isn't going to hunt. It's not going to work. You have to harden the target. And that's the cold, hard reality of it. But anyway, I wanted to wait a little while before I made any comments. Oh, and also, hats off to the Nashville Metropolitan Police Department. Those guys, I saw the video footage. They were very professional, very, very good tactics. They cleared room by room. They were moving and communicating excellently. They worked as a team. And from what I have seen of that chief, he seems like a stand-up guy. And if you have a good leadership for a police department, chances are you're going to have good officers. If you have a bad leader, you're going to have bad officers, as we've seen in some other cities. But hats off to them. They have a tough job to do, and a lot of people, I can only imagine. I once served as a deputy sheriff, and we did training simulators and stuff like that. But I can only imagine the adrenaline rush that those guys had in there. It's unimaginable. I mean, the most I've done is train with simunitions, which are basically a little, they're almost like soap, and they hurt like hell when you get hit with it. But it's not the same as a real bullet. But nevertheless, hats off to those guys, and my condolences go out to all the families involved. And I just thought it was so disgusting how we had politicians who, the bodies weren't even cold yet, the families weren't even notified, and one of them is the occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and the other one is the minority leader in the Senate. Just, it's just shameless, totally shameless. And, we don't all know what the answers are, but we need to ask the right questions. Anyway, peace out.